Novak, like myself, is, a challenging character in terms of the way he goes about his tennis is extremely demanding.
Do you do good pep talk?
You'd have to ask Novak. I don't know.
David's our pep talk guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm just a general hype guy.
Yeah.
I don't know, what was your approach?
I won the Olympics in London. I flew the next day to Canada to play Masters Series there. Terrible decision. I was sitting on the ATP Player Council when this got voted for to change the Masters Series to longer events, and I was completely against that change. Within probably a week to 10 days of retiring, my perspective completely changed on my own career. Like at times, when I was in the middle of it, like number 3 in the world or 4 in the world, and it's rubbish.
They're going big money on eBay.
I heard about that. Yeah, I heard they were going for big money. Have you kept yours, or are you...
I gave it to my mum.
Did you? And she put it on eBay.
Well, hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast, a very special tennis podcast today. What do tennis podcasters do in the off-season, I hear you wonder? Well, they come to the Roehampton Club and they interview one of the sport's greats. I am Catherine Whitaker. I am, of course, joined by Matt Roberts and David Law, and we are thrilled today to be joined by Sir Andy Murray. Andy, it's great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for squeezing us into your golf schedule.
Yeah. It's all right.
Do you miss seeing tennis media on a weekly basis? It's okay to say no.
No. Well, interestingly, I actually, since I finished, I like bumping into the media and chatting to them. It's changed. When I was playing, it was something that I think tennis, because we do so many interviews and it feels to me like so many of the same interviews that it just over time, it can at times become a little bit tedious. Whereas now I do less interviews, I don't see the media as much, and I'm then like genuinely interested to speak to the media, but also like it's fun. Like I don't mind it. It's just I think when you play like 80 matches a year for 10 years and you get interviewed before every match and after every single match, and it's always similar sort of questions, it's not so interesting.
We're happy to be a novelty for you today. Retirement looks like it's suiting you well. 18 months in, how's life?
It's good, yeah. I mean, I was genuinely like unsure of what it was going to be like. I didn't know whether I would enjoy it, whether I would miss tennis, and like how I would fill my days and stuff. So before it came, I was a bit nervous about it. I know that it was the right decision to stop when I did. I don't regret when I retired from tennis, but yeah, it's been brilliant. I've loved being a dad. Being at home with the kids is brilliant. I get to do everything with them, and that's, I'm in a very fortunate position to be able to do that. Yesterday, it's 10 o'clock on a Monday morning, and I got to go and watch my daughter's hockey competition for 3 hours, and it was in the pissing rain, but it was brilliant. I loved getting to do that sort of stuff, and I missed a lot of those things when I was playing tennis, and I've been really enjoying that.
Has it taken you any time to get used to it? Because I'm thinking that a year ago, it's just about the anniversary of when we all heard, mouth agape, that you were going to start working with Novak.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if we'd have asked you the question a year ago or just before that announcement, how's retirement treating you, whether your answer might have felt a bit different.
No, I was loving it at the time when I spoke to him. I'd just finished playing. I'd had a round of golf. I was in the car on the way home when I spoke to him about the possibility of coaching, and it was totally unexpected at the time, and it was not something that I wasn't missing the sport in a way where I was like, I'm desperate to start coaching and get on the road again. So yeah, no, I was still really enjoying myself and was really happy being away from the sport. I hadn't been watching much tennis. I hadn't hit a tennis ball since I finished. So yeah, I was in a good place, but it was also an opportunity where I felt like I would always want to coach at some stage, something that I would probably enjoy doing. And one that if I didn't take it, I might look back on it and be like, that would have been really interesting. I could have learned a lot, or, potentially regretted it. So I was very lucky that my wife agreed to, let me go and do it for a period. And yeah.
How do you look back on it now?
The coaching?
Yeah. And the kind of baptism of fire element, like that's not easing yourself into potentially being a coach, is it? That's like going in at the deep end.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you're obviously working with, he's not just one of the best tennis players, one of the best athletes of all time. So my expectation was that it was going to be extremely challenging. Novak, like myself, is, a challenging character in terms of the way he goes about his tennis is extremely demanding. And, I fully expected that. And yeah, I look back on it and I'm like, I'm glad that I did it. It's an amazing experience that I've had. I've learned a bit. Obviously, didn't last that long. But yeah, I put everything into it that I had. I tried my hardest to help him. Certainly initially it was going well. It was unfortunate what happened in Australia with the injury, and I watched him play in that tournament, like ridiculous tennis. In my opinion, I saw him play some amazing tennis there, and speaking to his team about that, I was like, just so good, like so impressive what he's doing. And then after the injury, it was certainly a difficult few months for him, but also I think for the team and all of us. So I was disappointed. Probably didn't get the results I would have liked for him, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot about what coaching is, and like you said, because it was you throwing yourself in at the deep end, it's like you find out a lot about yourself and some of your strengths, some of your weaknesses as a coach, and things that maybe you need to work on yourself. But yeah, I was like fully invested. I was like, I'd committed to a skiing holiday before I took the job, and I explained that to him. But I was sitting there like at 11 o'clock at night watching videos of his matches over in Australia, like editing videos to send to him, and like I tried my hardest to help, and I made some good relationships along the way as well with his team. I stay in touch with quite a few of the team members as well, which was good. So yeah, I'm glad I did it, but disappointed the results weren't as I would have liked.
What was it like, literally, like being on the court at the Australian Open when they had that innovation this year of coaches sitting really courtside? What was that experience like? Was it sort of even more feeling like the eyes were on you in a way?
To be honest, I wasn't bothered by that, like the cameras and stuff being there. It's not a good place to watch tennis from. Like I don't understand why. Like coaches should be sitting, in my opinion, and the team should be sitting in the best seats in the house. I feel, and because you want to be able to watch the match properly, and sometimes like a lot of the tournaments they get put in positions where they can't see properly. The umpire's chair is in the way. And I feel like the team should be sitting like directly behind the court so they get a proper view of the match and see what's going on. So from a communication perspective, it was good because you were right there and you're obviously allowed to chat to the players. So I really liked that about it. But just in terms of like watching a tennis match from there, it's not that easy to see from that low down. So yes, good being close to the court, but the position of the seats were not to my liking.
What was it like to witness the stress of somebody in the moment of a tennis match in the way that you have been on a million different occasions? What was it like to be on the receiving end of that and kind of witness it from the outside and absorb it? Yeah, what was that experience like?
So I actually didn't find the matches that stressful. The actual, once the matches started, the build up to the matches I found really quite stressful. Like, because yes, when you're sitting there on the side, you can obviously help and give comment on, you know, what you're seeing or what the player maybe needs to do differently during the match. But actually the build up is where, you know, the coach has to, there's lots of things that you need to do, and making sure that everything is done correctly. So making sure that the rackets are right, that the practice court is booked and that the practice partner is appropriate, and that, you know, the videos around the match are done. Like,
were you the one going in and booking the practice courts, and were you that hands-on doing all of that stuff?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so I did all of that stuff, which I viewed that as being, you know, my job. It wasn't like Novak said, please be the one getting my rackets and stuff. Like, I wanted to do those things because, like, you're then in control of it. So at the end, like, if you mess up the rackets, like, that's, you know, that's on you. So, you know, I'd have my list of things that, you know, I had to do before the matches, and, you know, make sure they're done right. And, you know, then you have to obviously go over the strategy and the, you know, like the videos that you put together. Novak had an analyst as well who he was working with that helped with a lot of that stuff as well. And he was, you know, he was brilliant. He's still working with him now. A guy called Boris, who helps him on the coaching side a bit as well. So he was also helping with that. But we spent a lot of time working on those things before the match, because, you know, that's something Novak wanted, you know, making sure the videos and stuff were done well. So we spent a lot of time on that. You know, and there are all of the things that go into, and then obviously sometimes before matches, like, you know, the player needs like a bit of encouragement or like a bit of motivation or something as well. And trying to make sure you find the right words or the right moments to do those things, I think are, you know, are important.
Do you do good pep talk?
You'd have to ask Novak. I don't know. I don't know whether I did.
David's our pep talk guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you have one this morning?
Yeah, I've given, you know, we're here, aren't we? We're here.
Yeah.
I'm just a general hype guy.
Yeah.
I don't know, what was your approach?
No, I think it's important for a coach to bring like a good energy. I think, you know, so that, you know, you don't want like on an important day that your team comes out and is like super like flat, but also like nervous energy is not also what a player, in my opinion, what a player needs before they walk on to play a, you know, semi-final, final of a Grand Slam. You need to, you know, bring an energy, like I don't know, like a bit of confidence as well, you know, and so that the player feels like you believe in them.
Yeah.
I think so. You know, whether or not I did that well or not, I don't know. I would have to, you know, Novak would have to answer that. But I'm aware from a psychological perspective how important those things are. So it's something that I would, like, if I ever coached again, like, I would work on and try and do a better job of it.
You'd obviously played Novak so many times and sort of observed his career kind of from the outside. When you got like inside the camp, was there anything about the way he operated that surprised you at all, or sort of that you thought, wow, I didn't know that you did it like that?
No, I wouldn't say so, because I've like you said, played against him a lot. I've also, you know, I practiced with him quite a lot, particularly in our younger years. Been in the gym with him lots at tournaments and things. One of the things that I really liked about his training, and his physical trainer at the time, Gigi, who was working with him in the off season, that I really liked, was that he always had him in different training environments. So one day he'd be in the swimming pool, the next day he would be running on the beach, then he would be, you know, going out on the bike, next day he'd be playing basketball. That was something that's very different to how I trained. A lot of mine was like, you know, get on the Versaclimber or get on a watt bike and you're sort of staring at the walls, and it's, you know, it's not that stimulating an environment. I liked the hard work and I enjoyed doing that, but that was something that probably from seeing Novak, I really I really liked that about his training, which you know, I certainly didn't do myself. I thought that was really good, and actually, I think it's a funny story anyway. But on the first day that I started working with him, I turned up to the training camp, and we did the practice session, which his team were all kind of laughing at me because whilst Novak was warming up, I was out on the court practicing my feeding, like warming up my feeding, which they were like, I've never seen anyone do that before. And I was like, well, as a player, I used to hate it when the coach fed poorly, and you know, I had like a basket of balls working on my feeding, so they all found that quite amusing. I was doing that. But then after the tennis session, his physical trainer was like, oh, Novak's going for like a long sort of slow run in the park later. Like, would you mind joining him? And I was like, oh my God, like I didn't run since I was about 25. Like on the court I did, but I never ran as part of my training. And I was like, it was my first day on the job. Like, I can't say, no, I'm not doing this. I was like, yeah, no worries, I'll do that. And bearing in mind, I also hadn't been staying in great shape since I finished. I mean, I'd been training a bit, but not loads. I told him that I've not trained much, and he was like, it's fine, it's going to be a gentle run. So anyway, I went, and it was like, I think it was about 50 minutes he was running for. And it was in a park, and you're kind of up quite a few hills in there, very slow pace. But after about 4 or 5 minutes, my left calf cramped. And I was like, oh no. But I can't say anything, like, this is embarrassing, you know, like after 4 or 5 minutes. And anyway, I completed the 50 minutes. I was in so much pain. And anyway, when I finished, I said to his team, I was like, guys, you need to help me out here. Like, I've been running for 45 minutes. My left calf cramped whilst I was there. And I was just like, I felt like I couldn't stop. You know, like I didn't want to show to him like, oh my God, you know, there's someone I've been competing against for such a long time. And after 5 minutes, you know, he's struggling training with me. So I did tough it out, but it's a pretty embarrassing moment for me.
Maybe he was testing you. By inviting you.
That run should not have been a test. It was so slow. We would have all been able to complete it. I don't know what happened, if it was just because I hadn't run for a long time or if I was dehydrated or nerves or whatever. But yeah, it was so slow and it was embarrassing.
You mentioned that some of the incredible tennis he played at that tournament, the Australian Open, and I mean, our minds all go back to the match he played against Alcaraz. So I know he's somebody you have talked about loving watching as a player, and he's a great watch. What was it like trying to, I guess, prepare for him, given everything he brings to the table?
Honestly, that preparation was done well ahead of time, and that was something that, you know, I worked on in the off season with more with his analyst, but you know, we worked on the court in terms of like patterns of play that felt like he would work well for him against guys like Alcaraz and guys like Sinner, who they're the players that most likely he was going to have to beat if he wanted to win another major. That was my opinion. So a lot of that work in terms of the preparation of the analysis of that match had been done throughout the off season. And tennis, in my opinion, you have to do that, and I don't think enough people do, because you know, it's one of the things that's really hard about tennis is you never know exactly who you're going to play. You know, you finish a match on Wednesday, you've got, you know, a day to get ready for the next one. There's not lots of time and in that time you've got to sleep, you've got to do your training and, you know, prepare. There's not lots of time to get ready for the opponents. So tried to do as much of that work in the off season as possible so that we weren't like scrambling around before, you know, the match with Alcaraz to, you know, how are we going to play against this guy? And, you know, can we get some videos put together to show Novak and, you know, that sort of stuff. So a lot of that was kind of done ahead of time, to be honest.
You proud of that? Like coaching Novak to beat Carlos?
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't wasn't me that won that match. Novak won that match, and he could win that match whether I'm sitting there or not. But I did the best I can to help him in that match, and I feel like this is the thing that's hard with tennis, is that I think the strategy to play against him is it's a bit complicated, but because we'd spent a lot of time on it, I felt like it was quite clear as to how he needed to play. But there's a difference between seeing a strategy and actually going out on the court and executing it as well as he did. And my opinion is that there's very few people in the world that can do that. So you could give a guy ranked 50 in the world the best strategy you want to play against Alcaraz, but he's still probably going to win that match, whereas Novak is that good that he is able to execute a strategy perfectly because he is so good. So yeah, I felt like the strategy for the match was a good one, but he played a ridiculous tennis match as well. And that's why he won the match.
How does the feeling of coaching somebody to a big victory like that, emotionally, how does that compare to actually being the one to do the stuff on the court?
It's different. I mean, I was really, really happy for him and super happy for, for his team. But yeah, I definitely, like, after the match and stuff, it was like hard to sleep still. Like, I was still like buzzing from the match and everything, and it was so good to watch that, like, I loved it. I loved being part of that match and being, courtside and stuff. It was awesome. But I would say winning as a player, being the one on the court, is still, would be a greater feeling. But it was still really, really special.
And kind of picking up on that, I remember in the final few years of your playing days, you would talk about how you'd spoken to ex-pros and they would say, like, kind of nothing does replace the feeling of playing, competing, winning. How have you found that in retirement, like not having that in your life and finding other sources of joy, I suppose? And was that at all part of the motivation to get into coaching, like chasing that feeling at all?
No, I don't think so. I don't feel like I've had to replace it. Like, I don't miss it. I think, like, golf helps with the sort of, like, having a routine of, like, something that I'm trying to practice and get better at. So I really like that part of tennis, and I love sort of waking up in the morning and, going to the gym to try and get stronger or more flexible or fitter, and getting on the court and practicing things. Like, I enjoyed that right up until the end. Like, I was always trying to find ways to get better, and I really enjoyed that. So, the competition is hard though as well. Like, it's not, I wouldn't say that, like, I don't miss, like, standing on the baseline to serve, like, on the first point of a match at Wimbledon. Like, I'm not winning Wimbledon. Like, yes, like, I would love to feel that one more time, but getting to that point is really difficult. It's really hard, and I did that for, a long time, and I really don't miss that. I dedicated a lot of my life to it. I'm glad that I did it. I'm proud of what I achieved, but I don't know. I don't feel like I'm trying to fill that void. And yeah, and if I felt like coaching was going to do that, I don't think that it did. I enjoyed it in a different way to how I enjoyed, competing and playing tennis.
Just picking up on that, I remember you saying that a few times, sort of speaking to you towards the end of your career, citing the ex-pros you'd spoken to that had said nothing will ever replace it, hang on to this as long as you can. How that obviously, hearing that obviously really stuck with you at the time. How do you look back on that advice and that mindset now? Like you said at the start that you'd been quite fearful of retirement, or certainly apprehensive. Like, do you think maybe you were too afraid of it?
Well, possibly, yeah. I mean, I don't know, possibly, but I also think that but the reason I feel like I do now is because I gave everything that I had to the sport. I don't look back with any regret. I couldn't. Well, there's things I would do differently if I could have another go at it, but I feel like I gave everything, like physically, to the sport. Like, there's certainly, like I said, things I would have done differently, but like mentally, like I was fully invested in my tennis. I gave my best effort to, or what I thought was my best. So I don't, I think I finished it at the right time. I had nothing more to give. And I'm sure there's some athletes that finish their careers and look back and are like, oh my God, like I totally blew that. I should have done this differently. I should have worked harder. I should have done, and I don't have that feeling. So yes, it's possible that I was maybe too fearful of retirement, but also if I'd stopped 4 years before and when I had the hip problem, maybe I would have been like, I would have liked to have seen like what I could have done with, with a metal hip, and, maybe would have had some regrets and wanted to go back and, compete again. But I have none of those feelings.
What are the things you would have done differently?
I would have probably would have trained slightly differently. I would have taken more breaks. Certainly would have done that. I would have enjoyed the successes more. So I would have for sure taken like an example I use quite a lot would be, so when I won the Olympics in London, I flew the next day to Canada to play Masters Series there. Terrible decision. I played my first match. My body was in bits. It was on a different surface. Got nothing out of doing that. And actually, why I didn't stay and celebrate, that is the best week that I had on the tennis court. And the way that I celebrated that was getting on a flight the following day to go to Canada to play over there, and like stuff like that. I did the same thing after Rio. I got on a flight that night, flew with Nadal to Cincinnati, and went and played there. Stuff like that I would definitely have done differently and spent.
Sorry, was that because the number one, specifically with the Rio example, you were chasing the number one at that time, right?
Yeah, so part of it was that, but I was still miles away from being number one at that stage. Like I still had to win what was like almost every match from that point through to the end of the year. And I was sitting in my hotel room every single day with my team during that Cincinnati tournament. I was like, don't want to play. So I'm so tired. Like I just don't want to play. And that's where like there was always like a conflict with me that I was like telling my team like I don't want to play, and then it was like getting closer and closer to the start time of the match, and I was like, I've got to play, like, but I'd be telling them like the whole day like I'm not playing, like I'm gonna pull out, because I really wasn't that bothered about the tournament. Like I just won the Olympics, I was like so happy. I think I won Wimbledon that year as well. Like I was in a good place. I didn't need to play in Cincinnati, but it was like that wanting to compete that, I was always drawn to that, and sometimes I found it hard to say no to that opportunity. And yeah, I wish like that week, for example, like I shouldn't have played in Cincinnati, but I did and got to the final. And, my team would say like every day they were like, I was pulling out. I was like, I'm not playing. I'd wake up every morning. I was like, I'm not playing today. Don't want to play. So.
You obviously had a good hype man at that time.
No, they didn't want me to play either. And maybe, that's something that, at times as well, like certainly in things in my career I would have done differently, but also like if I was coaching a player in that situation now, I would 100%, I would stop them from playing. I would pull them out of the event and stop them competing and be like, look, enjoy yourself. Like, we've got the US Open in a couple of weeks. Don't go out and party for 10 days, but like, let's take a moment to like appreciate like, what it is that you've achieved and worked for, and, let's reset and compete in a couple of weeks.
Do you think that decision to play Cincinnati had any effect on the US Open to come? Kind of when I think of your career, and maybe certain matches or tournaments that got away. Obviously, that 2016 US Open, look, I know Nishikori's a great player. You can lose to Nishikori, but kind of you were in such good form that year and kind of won so many of the other big events, Wimbledon, Olympics, Tour finals. Do you think just was there some burnout or fatigue that you were feeling at that tournament?
Well, I think one of the things that was starting to happen at that stage, and it had started kind of end of 2015, was that, so this is now that US Open, so it was, I don't know, 9 months from when my hip was completely done. And by that stage, my hip was pretty bad. And I struggled a lot that year in long matches, in 5-set matches. And by the end of those matches, I was really struggling, particularly with my serve. It became an issue. And if you look at my results from being 2-1 up in slams throughout my career up till that point, it was, I rarely lost from that position. And then in those next sort of few months, it happened multiple times. And I could lose those matches any way it's possible, but I know in myself that physically, I couldn't serve properly, and my hip was hurting badly in those longer matches. And yeah, it's possible that if I played less tennis in Cincinnati, that my hip would have been feeling slightly better at the US Open, but I don't think so. My hip was already on its way to being finished, and yeah, I lost multiple the match against Nishikori, I lost from 2-1 up. Del Potro 2-1 up at Davis Cup. Wawrinka 2-1 up at French Open, and that was when my hip, eventually was done. But yeah, I think it was more likely because of that.
With the relentlessness of it all, the fact that you're not able really, structurally, the way the tennis season is set up, to celebrate these things unless you make this decision, I'm not going to play, or a coach says, don't play. Is that something that you see as a problem for the tour in a way, in the way it's structured? I mean, we were talking to Jack Draper a couple of weeks ago, who was concerned about the lengthened Masters Series 1000 events, for instance, the fact that they're all a couple of weeks long now, and the feeling that you can't take breaks. You feel like you've got to be out there, and you burn out. Do you think that is actually something that maybe structurally should change?
Yeah. So the thing is, and I think that again, it's a regret of mine. Obviously, as a player, a lot of players just follow what the schedule says you have to do, and Novak's a good example of that this year, where he hasn't done that, and at times Federer didn't do that, and you are allowed to miss tournaments. Obviously, there is certain penalties in place for that, so yeah, there's a bit of a balance to it, and that's where, since these longer Masters series came in, I was sitting on the ATP Player Council when this got voted for, to change the Masters Series to longer events, and I was completely against that change because, one, I liked the Masters Series how they were. I thought they were great events, and my feeling was just that it's not. Yes, you would the feeling from the ATP at the time was that there would be less injuries because you would have more time to recover between matches. My feeling was that, yeah, but if you put 2-week tournaments on, there's less time for players to actually recover as well. And and I think part of the issue now is where I don't think there's anything that suggests that players are getting injured more than before. I think there's always been injuries, and I don't think there's evidence to back that up. But I do think players are more tired, and I think mentally are more fatigued than they were before, because they're spending more days away and more days on the road. And when you're more fatigued, you're more sensitive to pain and discomfort. And I think that my feeling is that is what players are feeling now is, you're just being away and being on the road for longer than you used to be, rather than, that the matches are like physically, so the players are obviously hitting the ball harder and stuff, but the matches, I don't think they're like so much more demanding than they were 10, 15 years ago, but it's the amount of time that players are away on the road that's actually an issue.
We all listened to your the podcast you did with Ramesh, which is great, but there was obviously lots of fun stuff in it, but one of the like profound lines that really, really got me was you saying that you're proud of your career now, but you weren't when you were in it. Like, is that? I felt quite sad hearing that sort of in the moment you couldn't feel proud. Like, how? I don't know. Do you wish you could have been proud at the time, or do you think that feeling of always wanting more was what enabled you to achieve what you did?
Yeah, so like part of probably that is maybe helped me become more successful, because I was always like striving for more, but at the same time I spent my whole career sort of getting compared to, your results are getting compared to Roger Federer or Novak Djokovic and Nadal, and these are the people that I was competing against and trying to become as good as or better than. So when you're looking at them and you're seeing that they've won 10 Grand Slams, 15 Grand Slams, 20 Grand Slams, the achievements, when you're just in the middle of that, seem like insignificant almost, which is literally within probably a week to 10 days of retiring, my perspective completely changed on my own career. Like, at times, when I was in the middle of it, like number 3 in the world or 4 in the world, and it's rubbish. Or you get to the final of the Australian Open for the 5th time, and it's a terrible result. And the media will also help you feel that way at times as well. Like, and sport is difficult in that sense, is that you have a great achievement and you're made to feel like it is a failure as well. And, the athletes, obviously, because we're competitive and want to win, we feel that too. But when, going to a press conference afterwards and it's like, the mood is so like disappointing and stuff, you will feel it, feel it more. So, yeah. When you're in the thick of it and it's your job and everything, like, disappointed when I didn't win majors. You put so much into it that it, you feel a bit like you failed. But when I finished my career, and I went and watched my daughter running a cross-country race, and she finished like 7th, and I was like, oh my God, like, that's unbelievable, like, it's so good. So, like, as a parent, like, I'm like, that is amazing. Like, finishing 7th out of 100 kids in like the local school area. But when I was playing tennis, like, you finish 2nd in one of the biggest competitions and you're like, this is just a disaster. It's just not an ideal way to look at things. It's hard to get much happiness and pleasure out of the sport when that is, the mindset. I think a lot of athletes suffer from it.
One of the things that struck us last night when we were looking at your head-to-heads against Novak and Roger and Rafa, your 3 big contemporaries and rivals, is just how many times you did beat them. You beat them a lot. I mean, is that something that in hindsight, given what we know of them now, how incredible their careers have been, that must give you some pleasure in hindsight?
Yeah, like when I watch myself play now, which is rare, like, the odd thing pops up on, my Instagram feed or whatever. And yeah, I like watching myself play now. Like, when I was playing, it was like so judgmental of like everything. It's like, oh, the ball toss is wrong, or God, that forehand's so bad, or whatever. Whereas now, like, I watch it and I'm like, wow, like, yeah, like, it was good. Like, I could play pretty well. But certainly didn't always feel like that when I was, in the middle of my career.
I think you posted the highlights of your Australian Open semi-final against Federer in 2013 the other day, and you were like, you know, we were pretty good. And that match always sticks in my mind. I think Simon Briggs of The Telegraph called it kind of a 5-set thrashing. Like, you were so good in that match, and Federer was fighting hard and extended it to 5. Like, can you just talk a little bit about your rivalry with Roger specifically? Something that I realised is you won 6 of your first 8 meetings against Federer, like right in Federer's prime. Kind of what was it about that matchup that you sort of took to early on there that you were having so much success against him, do you think?
Yeah, so I watched him like loads when I was growing up, and I took notes from watching matches watched matches of him on Sky. Like, I had an injury when I was 15, I think it was. I didn't play for like 6 months, and I really enjoyed watching him. Like, I loved watching him play, but I also I felt like I knew. Again, this is where it's like from a strategical point of view. Like, I felt like I knew how to play against him, but certainly was never always going to execute it well because of how good he is. But I had a clear idea of how it was that I wanted to play against him, and that certainly helped me early on. When I competed against him, and the matchup was not like a great matchup for me. Like, I still lost more than I won against him, but like it was a good match. I had chances to win when I played against him. Obviously, in the Grand Slams, I certainly didn't do as well, and I think part of that was, yes, his game, but also like the psychological impact of him having won multiple majors, me never having won one, and that the nerves that I would feel going into those matches and the pressure that I would feel. Obviously, he would have felt that too. He would have felt the pressure, and I'm not saying that I would, but I think if I played him the first time in slams when neither of us had won one, I probably would have felt a bit different going on the court. Whereas he had this aura about him, and was always sort of described as he's the best tennis player of all time. That to overcome him is challenging in those like the biggest matches, but the matchup itself, like, I felt like I matched up quite well.
Is there anything strategically or tactically you could just let us in on what for you it meant to play Roger and beat him?
I get on very well with Roger now. So yeah, it meant a lot for me to win against him because he was someone I watched as a kid. Like, I loved his game, but I felt like, his backhand was a side that people would say like, oh, his backhand was like weak, but I mean, in relation to what? Like, his backhand would still have been one of the best backhands in the world, but in relation to like his forehand, like, it was clear that was the side that you could maybe attack, and my backhand cross court was one of my best shots. And I also used to like playing this sort of like high forehand down the line that was sort of slow. That for him, I think, I'd be interested to actually know, and I've never asked him about it, but I didn't always hit it like super deep. It was like kind of like high but short in the box, and for a one-hander, it's difficult. You need to make a decision like early, like, what do I do with this ball? Do I step into the court and try and take it early, or they have to either like retreat and go back behind the baseline, or am I going to slice this ball? And that, I felt like that shot gave him some trouble, particularly early on when we played. Obviously, he figured that out the more I played against him. But yeah, there was a few things in the matchup that I felt like I could. And I think just because I watched like hours of him play, like initially, like reading his game, a lot of that had kind of been done before I went on the court with him the first few times.
What was it like being part of Rafa's retirement ceremony at Roland Garros last year?
Yeah, it was amazing, and I think he obviously like deserved that, and he seemed to be really touched by the whole thing. I thought is it the footprint that's on the court? What did they put?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I thought that was really cool. And yeah, he seemed to love it, which I think is what the most important thing is. Like, obviously it's nice if it makes everyone that's watching it feel, emotional and, they enjoy it, but Rafa seemed to really, really love it. So it was, yeah, it was great. I enjoyed and, it was actually like beforehand was also nice as well, because I don't think Rafa didn't know that we were all going to go, and we were sitting in like a room just with Roger for the most part and his agent, just chatting about tennis and our matches and what the game's like now and things like that, which which was fun too.
Did things like that, or maybe specifically that event, that help you feel like proud to have been? You were talking about sort of feeling of inadequacy because your career achievements were compared to those other three. But I guess the other side of that coin is you were a part of that big four, like one of the most incredible institutions that tennis has ever seen. Like, did a moment like that in Paris last year help you feel proud of being part of that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm fully aware, like, where I sit in the pecking order there. Like, I know that what all of those guys have gone on to achieve is far superior to anything that I did on the tennis court. But, also there was a period, like, in the middle part of my career where most major events, whether that was the Slams, Masters Series, Olympics, Davis Cup, that one of those four players was winning. Now, granted, most of the time it was them, but it wasn't always. And yeah, like, I was proud to have been part of that period. And again, I'm fully aware that what they've achieved is incredible, and I think it's amazing what they've done. But yeah, there was a period in the middle part where I was competing against them for the biggest tournaments most weeks, and I didn't ask to go to Rafa's ceremony. He'd asked for me to go, so I went, like, because he asked me to go. So when people say to me, like, oh, what's he doing there? Why is he there? I was like, well, I didn't invite myself to go along.
How did it feel to be asked? In that moment?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, great. Like, I'd absolutely be there if that's what he wanted. If he said no, or when Novak finishes, he doesn't want me to go there, and that's fine as well. Like, but it's not me, like, forcing my way into that situation, like, unwanted. So, yeah.
Did you get one of the T-shirts?
I don't think I did get one of the T-shirts, actually.
They're going big money on eBay.
I heard about that. Yeah, I heard they were going for big money. Have you kept yours, or you?
I gave it to my mum.
Did you? And she put it on eBay.
She actually wore it to the Rafael Nadal Academy that she visited this year, and she was gutted that no one noticed it and said, "Oh, were you at the retirement ceremony?" Because she had a little story to tell, but no one noticed. She was a bit annoyed about that. Just on Rafa, actually, while we're talking about him, obviously, I feel like the thing that gets talked about the most with Nadal is obviously his incredible record on clay. Something that I'd be interested to hear from you about was what it was like facing him on grass, because you had some Wimbledon quarterfinals and semi-finals against him. Like, what was the challenge of facing Nadal? Because I think people forget, like, he reached 5 Wimbledon finals in a row in terms of when he was playing the event, like, early in his career. He maybe took some losses later in his career that were surprising, but he was so good on grass quite early. I'm just wondering, what was the specific challenge for you? What did he do so well on that surface that people maybe don't always think about?
Well, I would say that probably, like, he served differently on grass than how he did on a clay court, for example. That was my feeling anyway, of, like, sometimes I played and practiced against him on clay, and it seemed like at times the only focus was to get the first serve in and play the point from there, so you didn't really have a chance to, like, attack his second serve. Whereas I played and practiced with him quite a lot on grass, and on grass this is just how it felt to me as a player. I don't know if this is actually the reality. I haven't looked at can't remember looking at the stats and all that to back it up, but he's felt like he served faster, tried to serve more aces, tried to get more free points on his first serve. And then on the second serve, I felt like he also upped his speed at times on the grass court, and because of the nature of the surface, his second serve became a little bit harder to return, and he would serve quite a lot to me on a grass court, into my forehand body. So whereas on a clay court, that doesn't, because of the way the ball reacts off the court, the spin wouldn't really cause too much issue. The serve would maybe come with a little bit more slow down off the court and a bit of top spin or kick. Whereas on a grass court, that wouldn't happen, and it would sort of slide through and come into my body. And that was, I found, returning against him significantly harder on a grass court than on the clay. And then from the back of the court, his forehand was great on every surface. I think that rarely sort of let him down. I mean, at times, if you played very fast into that side, you could get a shorter ball for sure. But in offensive positions, his forehand was brutal on a grass court as well. And then, he showed it off on a clay court as well, but probably more so on a grass court. It's he finished up at the net really well. He had very solid volleys, good hands. He was quick at the net, anticipates well at the net, and he was able to use those skills more on a grass court than maybe he did on the clay. So yeah, there was a few things that he did differently on the surfaces, but they would be a couple.
One of the things looking at the head-to-heads you had against the three of them, and things we've heard all four of you talk about, is the work you were putting in, constantly trying to make incremental improvements or adjustments. And as Matt was saying, you won 6 of your first 8 against Federer, and then at the end of his career, or the end of the rivalry rather, when you're still kind of at your peak, he starts to win a lot in a row. And we've seen that with adjustments the three of them have made against each other. What can you remember Federer maybe bringing something a little different towards the end of that rivalry? Can you remember any changes that you made against any of the other three that really made things improve for you during the rivalries?
I would say that Federer, over the years, got progressively more offensive, particularly with his court position, or my second serve was average at best, and I would say that as I played against him more, he was more offensive on second serve return, tried to get on his forehand more when I was hitting second serves, whereas at the beginning, he would often sort of stand on the baseline, and if I served to his back, he would just chip it back and start the rally, whereas towards the end, he was making more of an effort to get on his forehand and really attack immediately in the rallies. So when I was serving, that was something he definitely did differently. I would say, again, his court position, that I think got tighter to the baseline as his career went on. He always was pretty offensive, but I would say more so. If you watch him from 2003-04 to towards the end, it was you can notice a difference there. And then with Novak. Novak was a difficult match for me because very similar game styles, but he was just everything was just a little bit better. And I would say that the only area where I was probably stronger was at the net, but then it's hard to sort of exploit. It's not like he's Novak, good at the net. He's not terrible net player, but how do you make that work in your advantage? If I want to bring him up to the net, it's not an easy thing to do. You can at times, but you can't spend every point hitting drop shots or hitting short balls to try and get him to come forward. So it was, wasn't really that easy for me. The sort of one advantage that I had, I couldn't use in every single point. One of the things that when I was working with Ivan Lendl, and we had lots and lots of information data, particularly in the matchup with Novak. And one of the things which there was a big difference is, so when I would hit a slice backhand to Novak and when I got it to his backhand, that most of the time he would come back with a slice, and his slice is sort of quite slow, whereas someone like Federer like really knifes his slice. It was like a strength of his. Novak wouldn't miss many, but it was a slower ball. And when I got on my forehand after that shot, so when he sliced and I was the one to get on my forehand, the percentage of points that I won was significantly higher. So that was something towards the end when I played against him that I focused on a lot. So when I would bring the slice into the rally, immediately trying to get on my forehand as much as possible. And that, seemed to help a bit against him. And then Rafa, I don't remember playing him loads towards the end, really. Felt like a long time since I played him. I can't really remember exactly from a strategical sort of perspective, but there was always things you were trying to adjust and learn from like the previous match. But the thing that's hard, and with great players like those guys, is that they're also looking at those matches as well that you've just played and are like, well, which things worked, which things would I do differently next time? And they're not showing up on the court with exactly the same game plan every single time. So you're always trying to make adjustments, but you have to be mindful in the match that things change. And that for me is one of the hardest things about tennis, and what I loved before the sort of pre-coaching era was that, like on-court coaching, was that you as the player had to decide, like, when do I decide that this strategy is not working? Is this like 6 games into the match? Do you wait a set to see if it's working? Is it,
Did you have any examples of that in a match against one of those where, oh my word, they're doing something different to what I expected, or this is just not working and you change?
I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of a specific match, but yes, like playing against them, there would be, when you play against them, like as many times you go on the court and things are not happening as you want or expect, and it's trying to calculate like whether is this not working because I'm just not executing it properly or well enough, or is it because they're doing something differently, or does this just not work like I thought it was going to and it is not. And these are things that you have to work out when you're on the court. I thought Rafa was probably the strongest at that, I would say. I think he did always get a little bit of additional help from Tony on the side, but I think he was brilliant at that. Making the adjustments during matches and constantly like changing his return position, or starting to use his slice more, or changing the heights of the ball and things. Like, I would say that he was very, very good at that.
I always think the 2022 Australian Open final is like the ultimate example of Rafa doing that. You're big into data, like as a player and a coach, sounds like. Do you think tennis makes enough of data?
But tennis is probably like quite far behind other sports in that sense. And like in a lot of the team sports, like they've been using like wearable technology for certainly the last decade, but probably longer, whereas it's only been allowed since last year on the ATP Tour. So up until recently, like players haven't known like, what's my heart rate doing in a 5-set match, and what's the load on my body, and all of those sorts of things. I mean, you could get estimates or guesstimates, but nothing exact. So I think that certainly is something that should help the sport, like help players and teams understand like how they should be training more effectively, which would then, hopefully reduce injury risk and things like that. And then data has been around for a while, but it's only recently been, like statistics and stuff for matches has been around a while, but it's only really become like available to all the players like fairly recently in the last few years, whereas beforehand you had like a lot of the top players paying companies to provide their data on their matches, which, was an advantage for sure. Whereas now a lot of that data is available to all of the players on one platform. So I could log on and see Alcaraz's last 80 hard court matches and look at his serving patterns and things like that. But again, that's also challenging because, players change, and from week to week sometimes, and it's knowing how to present that data, in the correct way to your player. And lots of the, I would say, sort of older generation of coaches probably didn't have that when they were playing themselves, and then didn't have it during their coaching career. So I don't think some of them are reluctant to use it as well. And some people think it's just overkill and there's too much analysis and too much data, and there's not enough sort of feel for how someone should play against an Alcaraz or whoever. So it's hard, and then that comes down to the player, I think, and what does the player actually want, rather than the coach just going, "Oh, I'm very analytical, I love data, so I'm just going to throw all of it at this player," when actually someone like an Alcaraz plays a lot on instinct, I think, and probably don't want to overcomplicate things for him. So, yeah.
Did you see the picture he posted last week of him watching the Davis Cup? The picture of his living room with all his trophies chaotically cascaded around his living room.
Oh, really?
He's got his Wimbledon trophy
at the back,
right at the back on an IKEA bookshelf, and sort of the Cincinnati ceramic. It's chaos.
I need to get a proper,
very
proper
endearing
chaos.
Yeah. Where are all your trophies?
So when we moved house, my wife made a trophy cabinet. It's downstairs out the way, but yeah, there's one in there.
Must be pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty big. Yeah, it's decent. It's a decent size. Yeah, but actually, I mean, I'm fine with them, obviously, being in there. But it's not. I don't go and look at them daily, and I'm like, oh look, I'm not. It's not. Yeah, not something I think about. Not something I think about loads. But yeah. Is
one of the Olympic golds is at the Wimbledon Museum?
It was. Yeah, I actually got it back last week. Yeah, it'd been in there for I think about a year. But yeah, I got it back recently.
Are the Olympic medals in the trophy cabinet as well? Do you
Olympic medals? Yeah, they're in there.
Do you ever wear them?
Do I ever wear them? My kids wear them. My kids sometimes. Yeah, and I was quite precious about them at the beginning, but no, I'm just whatever. It's fine. Scratch them up and stuff. It's whatever. Yeah. Yeah. One of them wanted to take one of them into school. I don't know what it was. They were doing some. I don't know. They were doing something at school, and we're like, no, that's a bit much to send them in with one of them. So we gave them my Beijing Olympics participation medal instead, which they were happy with.
Have you got all your Olympic pins still?
I've still got all of them.
Paris?
Yeah, I've kept all of them.
They'll be worth something on eBay as well.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean that was something that at the time, I absolutely loved doing it every single Olympics. Whereas now I'm a bit did I sort of spend a bit too much time walking around the village and stopping at different tables in the restaurant, just oh, that guy's from Eritrea, that's a rare pin. I'll go over and ask him if he's got one, and they're just having scrambled eggs. I'm okay.
Did anyone ever refuse to give you a pin?
Yeah, I mean, you get rejected all the time. It's a proper game,
What, people want to stop you having them so they can beat you?
Yeah, and also they obviously want pins in exchange for you giving. Some people don't care; they just want to get rid of them so that when people show up and they're like, "Oh, do you have any pins?" They're like, "No, I don't have any."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bit of a game, and I got really quite into it, and I got most of the tennis team were not into it to the same level as me, but I got quite a few of them on board, I think.
Andy Murray in competitive shock.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier on that you voted against that decision to extend the Masters 1000s. Now that you're out of it all, you can look on from the sidelines. What would you do with tennis? I mean, if you could start again, is there a change above all other that you'd love to see the tours, the circuit, the sport make?
Yeah, there's quite a few things. Like, there's a few things that I would probably change. At that time as well, there was exemptions at the Masters Series level. You could get up to 3 exemptions, and they were quite hard to achieve. One of them was you had to be, I think it was an age related one. So I think it was over 30, but it could have been more, like 32 or something. But you had to be over 30. You were allowed to miss one and not get penalised. There was a match related one. So if you played over, again, I'm going to get this wrong, but it was, let's say, 600 matches, you were exempt. And then there was one that was a certain amount of years of service on the tour. So let's say it was 12 years of service. So you could, in theory, miss up to 3 Masters Series and not get penalised. And that was one of the other things that when this vote was taking place, was that the Masters Series were well, we want to put up all of this prize money, we want more days, but we want to get rid of the exemptions, which again, I was against that, because I just think as players get older, you need to prioritize certain tournaments, and obviously your body has wear and tear on it, and you need to make decisions at times well, I'd like to play this tournament, but the right thing for me is to skip events. And also, and I believe this used to be the case, but if not, it should be, is that let's say you missed with one of those exemptions, let's say I missed the Paris Masters one year, well, then you can't miss that same Masters Series the following season. And I think that's something that I think they should bring the exemptions back for players. So then at some stage, you're allowed to miss events, but also bring back because then the tournaments are not going to be well, I don't want that, because then Alcaraz could just miss, whichever Masters Series he doesn't like for the rest of his career without any penalties. And I think that's also where, and I know a lot of people wouldn't like it because it would mess with records and things like that. I don't know if there's a way around it, but having a 2-year ranking system would allow players to feel less pressure to have to compete every single week for ranking points and worry about losing their ranking if they get an injury for 3 or 4 months. That's something that I think could help, but I don't know how that would work with the record books. That's a challenge if you go down to your ranking system. And yeah, there's loads of other things that I would want to change.
How protective do you feel of best of 5 in men's tennis? Is that a red line? Is protecting the existence of best of 5 in men's tennis in Grand Slams, is that a red line that you wouldn't cross, or do you think that kind of everything needs to be on the table? Because it would solve a lot of problems, getting rid of best of 5, or having some sort of system where it's best of 3 for men and women in the first week of slams, best of 5 second week of slams. It would even up the formats across men's and women's tennis. It would protect bodies. There'd be a lot of advantages to it, but it's obviously something that, for good reason, people within the sport are fiercely protective of, because there's a lot of highs. And this year, you've got the example of the French Open final, where it's pretty hard to campaign for getting rid of best of 5 when you've just had that match that wouldn't have existed without it.
Yeah, and I think that for me, best of 5 was great for better players. Longer the matches go on, more chance there is for you to come back and figure it out and work things out. So as a player, like I loved it. As a fan, like I personally, this is just, I would not sit and watch a best of 5 set match now, because it's too long. I have a family, got other things to do. I wouldn't watch. But tennis fans seem to enjoy best of 5 formats. But I think what it comes back to is like what is actually the problem, like with tennis? Like what is it that everyone wants to change? Like what is so bad about it? Like it's hard, like people, not everyone like agrees on what the issues actually are, and like some people, like players will always complain. I did when I was a player. A lot of the things that the players are complaining about now, they were complaints 20 years ago. You know, whether it's prize money related, too many tournaments, schedules wrong. You know, the players will always complain about stuff, probably. But I think for things to change, like probably the players need to be very clear about what it is that, like what do you actually want? What are actually the problems, and does everyone actually agree on them? Because sometimes you might hear players say like, oh, there's, you know, too many tournaments, play too much. Generally, it's the top players that will say that. Players ranked 70 in the world maybe doesn't want less tournaments. They maybe want as many tournaments as possible to earn money and, you know, more ranking points or opportunities for ranking points and things. Whereas, you know, the top 10 players in the world, like generally they feel like they want to play less, which is understandable. They play more matches and stuff. But then, yeah, they also they want to play exhibitions as well, and you know, it's like, oh, there's too many tournaments. Oh, but the mixed doubles at the US Open, like that's a new event. Oh, no, we all want to play in that. This is an amazing idea. We all want to play more tennis because we're getting paid lots of money to do it, and we're getting appearance fees to play. And but then lots and lots of other tennis players, particularly the doubles players, were hating that idea. But the top players loved it. So there's always, like, it's hard to get all of the players to always agree on things. Well, there's too many tournaments. Yeah, but we're going to put a new Masters series in Saudi Arabia. There's going to be lots and lots of money. Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. We all want to play in that event. That's really good. So it's hard to know exactly what it is that what all the tournaments want, what the Grand Slams want, what the players want, and to come to some sort of agreement. It's very difficult.
Would you have wanted to play in that event? You famously turned down a big offer from Saudi.
Yeah, so I think where it becomes difficult is that you know, there's obviously exhibitions and players choosing to go and play there for money, and the tour that you're playing as part of making decisions about where they're going to host an event. And if they're going to play put a Masters series on, and it's a mandatory event that players have to go and play, well then I'm going to play there because the ATP are putting an event on there and it's part of my tour, and I'm going to go and compete there because that's how I earn my living. Whereas an exhibition is a decision that a player is taking, like, I want to go and play in this event, I want to earn lots of money. I was offered to play in an exhibition in Saudi Arabia multiple times. I said no, that I wasn't going to do that. But then, yeah, we also play in lots of countries around the world that have maybe questionable, you know, human rights, you know, records. And we went and played in those countries, you know, particularly when it was part of like our tour, and that was not considered a problem. So yeah, it's challenging. You know, it's challenging for the sport to get everything right and to keep everybody happy. But I do think there's things that, like, one of the things the players complain about all of the time is they say, and I was one of them as well, I'm not saying that it's just players of today, like, you know, players 20 years ago complained about it and stuff. It was like the tennis balls, you know, it's like, oh, tennis balls are changing every week, tennis balls are so heavy, is what you hear all of the time. And the tennis balls are not more heavy than than they used to be. Like there is a limit that they have to sit between, which has been the same for like over 20 years. So tennis balls are not heavier than they used to be, but the game has changed, I would say, and players are hitting the ball harder for sure. The courts have become like grainier and slower generally. And the balls, because of that, like, because the players are hitting the ball harder, grainier courts, slower courts, sandy courts, is that the balls, it always sounds funny talking about this, but the balls fluff up more. You know, then they're less aerodynamic, they become slower. So they're not actually heavier, they're just slower tennis balls. And I feel like if that is the case, that what the tours could do is just easily, like, why don't you change balls after 5 and 7 games instead of 7 and 9 games? Like, if that is an issue for the players, or why don't you start the match with 9 balls instead of 6 balls? You know, yes, there's probably a cost that comes with that, but if that is something that all of the players have an issue with, then why could they not do that? And also, like, if they're worried about the balls changing every week, well, couldn't the tours like create their own tennis ball, and then whoever is, whether it's, I don't know, Wilson, Head, Yonex, like if they want to sponsor the ball for the event, just sponsor it and print the Yonex logo on it or the Wilson logo or whatever. And the players then have got the same ball for a whole season or a whole string of events, like on the hard courts or clay. And you don't hear the complaints about them changing ball. The players would probably still find a way to complain about it. But if they were the same every week, then you can eliminate that quite quickly, I would think. I don't know if that's something that the manufacturers want, but I don't think it's good for manufacturers to create a ball and then the players to be just saying every week, oh, this ball's terrible, posting pictures of it, like, oh, look at the difference from one game to the next. These balls are awful. So I don't see why that couldn't work.
Was being on the Player Council frustrating from all these points of view, sort of lack of unity of feeling and cohesion and sort of cohesion of agendas and aims?
Yeah, I hated it. And I went back to do it a second time because I'd been asked to do it and I was like, oh, I didn't enjoy it first time. Did it again, but yeah, I didn't enjoy it because, you know, sometimes you would be sitting in meetings like the day before a Masters series for 3 or 4 hours and, you know, it didn't feel like much was getting done. Like you know, tennis players, like obviously we understand their sport, but also we're not like intelligent people, most of us, you know, or well educated either. So you get like 10 of us in a room, like talking about stuff that we don't really know that much about, you know, like from a business perspective. And yeah, at times it was just like lots of players having conversations to the person next to them and actually nothing really gets done. And then at times, like, I remember going into meetings with the slams with Roger, Rafa and Novak about prize money. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but anyway, went to quite a lot of these meetings and spoke to all of the slams, you know, individually before these slams took place, which is obviously a time where, you know, you want to be concentrating and focusing on your tennis and preparing and stuff, but, you know, did it because felt like it was the right thing to do. And then the slams at the end of that year, like, they increased their prize money. And I remember it was like Australia announced when we were there, I think, like, you know, that they were going to increase their prize money or whatever. And then the first player that I saw, I'm not going to name his name, but went up to him, I was like, who'd been complaining and was so vocal about the prize money slams, I was like, look, I was like, they did it. Like, we went and spoke to them, they did it, they've upped the prize money by however much it was. And he was like, yeah, but it's not enough. And I'm like, well, you know, like, so I don't know what it is that exactly what it is that the players want. Yes, the players, I feel, should probably get paid more at the Grand Slams, but I think if they really want to change it, they need to be very clear about what it is that they actually want. And I think the tour could be, the ideal thing, I think, would be like if the Australian Open was like 2 weeks later. But then it makes sense to do it like that because the players then get a longer off season, time to rest, and then actually build up and prepare. But then the Australian Open don't want to move because it's then not in the kids' summer holidays, so they're back at school and they're worried about like attendance and things like that. So yeah, I don't know. There's always problems.
Yeah, that just about sums it up. Should we finish with some more stuff about you, some lighter stuff? I'm curious. What's like the most normal thing that you've gotten to do and gotten to enjoy that you didn't used to get to do? Like I
wouldn't describe it as like a normal thing to do. We're lucky that we're able to do it, but skiing. Like I've absolutely loved doing that. I never skied in my life. Had always wanted to. Like I love the snow.
Is that because of risk of injury?
Yeah, I mean, I think contractually there's a few issues around getting injured doing like extreme sports.
It invalidates health insurance, so I'm sure.
Yeah, so I think you need to be a bit careful about doing it. I know some players, I think like Sinner and like Novak's a very good skier as well. So yeah, I know that lots of players do it, but I never skied as a kid. I'd always wanted to ski, but was pretty much everyone I know that has skied has injured themselves skiing. My best friend who went skiing with Ross Hutchins, who's now got a big job at the ITF as well. So a lot of these issues we're discussing, he'll be responsible for. No, but yeah, like he fractured his eye socket when we went last time. Yeah, so lots of people that I know that ski have had bad injuries. So,
have you been okay so far, skiing?
Okay in terms of no injuries.
Be
I mean,
quite careful.
Okay in terms of my level of skiing, no. It's pretty ropey, but I've loved doing that. Like, yeah, like a new thing that I've got to experience since I finished, which I've done with my friends and family that, kids are learning to ski and yeah, like amazing. Yeah, just amazing thing to get to do, great skill to have and brilliant holiday. So yeah.
I've seen you advertising potatoes.
Yes.
Do you, now that you've got this time on your hands, apart from the golf, have you got a specialist go-to family meal that you prep? Do you like time in the kitchen?
Apart from the potatoes,
What's your favourite type of potato? Like, if you could only have one type of potato. Sorry to hijack your question, just to stay on potatoes for another moment. Mashed, jacket, dauphinoise.
I mean,
Parmentier.
I like a thick cut chip.
Oh,
You
okay.
don't.
No,
Really?
I'm a skinny fry person.
Well, skinny is more unhealthy.
Yeah, but it's about vinegar absorption. It's about
You vinegar on chips.
Vinegar on everything
yeah.
that it can go on. Yeah.
Ketchup or brown sauce for me.
So you telling me you hand make chips
No.
with okay.
No.
No, okay.
No, I don't hand make them.
So sorry, back to David's question.
No, my cooking, I don't cook. I'm a terrible
I'm glad
cook.
I hijacked the question.
No,
David.
so
That didn't go
I
very
used
far.
to cook more. So we get these like sort of, they're not ready meals, but from Mindful Chef. Have you heard of them? Yeah. So I would do them. But there's obviously there's a recipe that you follow, and all of the ingredients are there, so you don't mess up like the amount of stuff you're meant to put in. Yeah, but the problem for me is that I will follow the instruction down to a T, and if something is not going quite right, I haven't had no idea how to make adjustments. So like if I was making like a sauce that needed to be thicker, and the 20 minutes was up, or however long it was meant to be, it was like panic stations. So I didn't know how to react to issues in the kitchen. And then we ended up having a terrible meal when I was doing that. So then I retired from cooking as well as tennis.
Yeah, I was all right because I was just cooking for myself. So
Yeah.
if it was a disaster,
You hadn't got
it's less
disappointed
of an
faces
issue.
looking at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you're trying to feed a family, it's
It's got a lot of
it's
pressure.
a bit of pressure. Yeah, kids aren't always that
Forgiving.
forgiving if you get a meal wrong or something's not quite right. Particularly my 4-year-old, she'll let you know.
If they enjoyed having you around more.
I mean, I think so.
Did it take some getting used to for the
me?
family? For the family, because I'm guessing like
Yeah.
they had a routine. Like,
Yeah, I mean, particularly my eldest daughter. The rest of them not so much, because yes, I was still playing at the end, but there was also quite a few periods where I was at home a lot through the injuries and things. So I wasn't on the road quite as much. Whereas with my eldest daughter, like it was, I think, quite a big change for her, like a big adjustment, and like because she was finding it hard. Like if I had to be the one to take her to school or to pick her up and take her to a club or being around her friends and things like that. And that's something that she certainly was finding difficult. And if I was getting any attention when I was with her, she really struggled with that. And it was only last week when I picked her up from netball, and it was the first time she actually walked next to me back to the car. And yeah, I said to her, I was like, that's the first time you've ever, and she sort of smiled at me, and I think now is a bit less embarrassed by me.
for now.
For now, yeah. I mean, I'm sure in a few years that's coming. But yeah, like this morning, like my son's got into board games. Like I already they were up at 5:45. That's every morning. 2 of them get up at that time. I was playing Monopoly at 6 a.m. this morning with a 6-year-old. I mean, it's
that'll
tough.
get the
Monopoly,
competitive juices flowing.
Yeah, so yesterday...
It's quite a long time to play a game of Monopoly.
My parents
tell
had
me
to
about it. I
ban
know,
Monopoly in my
it
house because
you
it
banned
caused
it.
so many arguments
well,
between me and my brother,
Yeah, so I taught him how to play Monopoly a few days ago, and then I played with him. I played with him yesterday. I played 2 games with him, and he won the first game, and then the second game, he was in a good position, and he'd got it in his head that it was just me and him playing, that he wanted to put hotels on Mayfair and Park Lane. This was Monopoly Sterling Edition, by the way, which it's Stirling Castle and somewhere else in Stirling. Okay, so he decided he wanted to put hotels on the 2 blue ones. He only had Mayfair. So I was explaining to him, like, yeah, but you need to land on this one first. You've got 3 of this, the red ones. Like, you should probably think about putting the houses and stuff on there first. And he was like, no, I'm going to save my money. I want to land on this one. And I was like, yeah, but you may never land on it. Anyway, I had the purple ones and the orange ones, or the pink ones and the orange ones, and had a few, 3 houses on the pink ones. He was in a great position. He had lots of money, landed on the pink ones, got whatever it was, 400, 500 quid. And then I used that money to put a hotel on the orange ones. And then on his next roll, he landed on the hotel, killed him off, bottom lip, went, gone. And I'm like,
That's
why
an
am I doing
important
this?
life lesson.
You need to do it. He needs to learn. But I'm like, now I have to deal with a meltdown over a game of Monopoly that I've been playing for the last 2 hours. Anyway, that's what I do now.
I can tell, yeah.
Yeah.
Heard you say on Romesh's podcast you've got ambitions to be a caddy. Is that right? Is that...
I mean, I would like to do it, but it was like in a certain context, like becoming a caddy full time is not something I would do. But I was like, as like a dream job, like for me now, like if you could say, oh, you know, you could, like, it's a realistic thing that's it's possible. Like I couldn't say, oh, I want to win the Masters in golf, like, but saying, oh, I could become a caddy and imagine caddying for Rory McIlroy or Robert McIntyre in the last group of a major. Like that would be, you know, be a cool thing to do for someone who loves golf. But I have no plans to actually become a professional caddy and do the job full time. There's a lot of work and travel involved, and you know, these guys are bloody good as well. Like they spend years like understanding like that profession, and they're all most of them very, very good golfers as well. So I mean, it's something you could probably do for a week. Like some, you know, players have, you know, their partners with them on the bag and stuff. Like, you know, they're not all amazing golfers, but
My golf coach's wife is his caddy.
really, and I think Lee Westwood's
They
wife
remain
as well.
married. Yeah, yeah. Are you up for offering some golf some golf tips or assessments?
Yeah.
This is Indian Wells a couple of years ago.
Right. So, I mean, even before you started,
Oh no.
I mean, that looks to me like you're literally like, I mean, it's okay. It looks like quite a lot of your weight is on your heels.
It's actually quite useful.
Already.
Where should it be?
Well, I think slightly more towards the like mid front of the foot, I would say. Do you play a lot of golf?
What do you think?
What's this? See, it always makes me laugh when amateurs do this sort of thing, because you sort of, you might know that you do this. You did like a little
wiggle.
Little wiggle.
Yeah, Matt does that.
Like,
I've got a bit of the
like
Mount
that's
Chilich
gonna help.
sort of.
And then, no, but it's a guy do it as well. Like, you know, we go through this like routine and then hit the ball like 20 yards in front of us. And it's just, yeah, it's funny. So you've got a little wiggle going. Yeah, I mean. So, what? That was first shot of the round. I mean, it's a tough first shot, isn't it? Yeah. You did the wiggle twice there. Three, 4. So I'd try and get rid of that.
Okay.
Right. Wow. You hit a bird there, it looks like. It's good. I assume you weren't trying to do that. I mean, that is a tricky first tee shot, to be fair.
And it was an extremely narrow course. There's
Yeah.
houses all around. We felt a bit watched.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you say narrow, I mean, I can't see any houses close to you
Well,
here.
just you wait. Just you
Oh, there's
wait.
more coming, is there? Okay.
But at least I might be able to retrieve it.
Do you come on straight after this?
God, and everyone's watching us.
Oh no. Well, I'm assuming you must have hit it into a house. How have you managed to do? Surely you haven't done that. Nice shoes.
Thank you.
Okay. Oops. Right. Wow. I mean, those hands are literally in between your legs, which is incredible. Yeah. You do have some.
Oh my lord.
You do have some serious height, which makes it tricky. I mean, I'm assuming they're rental clubs as well. Yeah.
This is how close I've just come to hitting somebody's windows. Sorry, folks.
Did you enjoy your round? I mean, there's not loads I can say about that.
I feel worse about it now. It got better.
Did it?
Yeah.
It's a humbling sport, isn't it?
We actually played with
Oh,
Dan
it is,
Evans
yeah.
on that trip
Okay.
a few rounds later when we were
He's
much
a
more
good
in
golfer.
form.
Yeah.
Was he good that day?
For the first shot.
Yeah. We were actually sticking with him.
So did you say you played with Dan Evans?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, Dan's
He's
generally
good.
pretty good player.
I think we brought him down to our level.
So your advice to David is be less tall, and your advice to Matt is get rid of the wiggle.
Yeah, I think weight probably slightly
Weight
further
transfer.
forwards. I mean, the 4 wiggles before.
Cut those out.
Yeah, but I think
Down
it's
to
like
1.
fine.
You got to hit a good shot.
Yeah,
after
fine
that.
if you're going to hit a decent
Yeah.
shot, but if you spend that much time preparing to hit the ball that badly, I think the people that you're playing with are like, oh my god, like this is his 3rd tee shot. first two have gone in the water.
And he's wiggling.
Let's just try and get the swing going, I think.
Noted.
But yeah, I think you looked like you needed maybe some longer clubs potentially. They looked a little bit small.
Okay. And then I'll be fine.
Can I ask one last question? Have you been asked to go on the Celebrity Traitors?
No, but it's funny because a lot of people have asked me that, and apparently there'd been like some articles saying that I was going to go on the first season, and then that I'd been asked to go on the next season. Neither of them are true. I haven't watched it.
Would you take the call?
No.
Do you watch Traitors?
I watched one of the first seasons of Traitors with the
Civilians.
Civilians.
They're calling them now.
Yeah, the civilians. But yeah, all of my friends have been talking about the celebrity one. I've not watched any of it. My wife was totally anti the civilian one, which I was actually quite enjoying. But then, yeah, celebrity one I haven't watched yet. I'm sorry to disappoint.
You could just be being a great traitor and, giving us a...
Maybe it gets announced next week that
Right.
I'm on there.
I believe
Who knows?
We'll cross our fingers. Andy,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time. It's been
That's
great.
all right.
Thank you.